Yes, people, hope you're good. Hope everyone's well and that. Thought I'd make a video, bit different. Make a little reaction video. Yeah, react to some UK. You'll see now anyway. Yes, people, hope you're good. Hope everyone's well and that. Thought I'd make a video, bit different. Make a little reaction video. Yeah, react to some UK. You'll see now anyway.
It's 2:13 a.m. on Pilgrim's.
Wait, how do I get my... Oh, there we go. I'm a bit new to it. I'm just learning and that as we go along. What's this? What? Cool. Is that the biggest it goes? I guess it is. Yeah, people, we're gonna be reacting to this, innit? The UK's £1 billion car theft crisis. Let's go.
Lane, Hampstead, London. Two men step out of the shadows, each holding a device in their hands. One stands near the door of a building, the other near a black Range Rover, parked on the side of the road. The car is locked, and they don't
Had to be a Range Rover.
have the keys, but the door opens anyway, and without having made a sound, they simply drive it away. By the time the owner wakes up, the car will already have a fake number plate and be inside a shipping container, headed for the Netherlands and ultimately South Africa. This might seem like an isolated incident, but somewhere in the UK, a car is stolen roughly every 4 minutes. In the last 10 years, vehicle theft has surged by nearly 75%, and the police can't keep up. Criminals have gone from picking locks and breaking windows to key cloning and using £20,000 black market hacking tools.
Bro, every 4 minutes. That's a mad thing. 60, 120. What? Every 240 seconds. A car's probably gonna get stolen. 2, 3 of them in this video, bro, while we're watching it. It's mad.
Stolen cars cross UK ports undetected and end up as far as Cyprus, the UAE, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo before police can even file a report, often within just hours of disappearing. This isn't just an inconvenience, it's an epidemic costing Britain billions of pounds a year. And while much of continental Europe has reduced vehicle theft, the UK is going in the opposite direction. Because oddly enough, it's the best place in the world to be a car thief. But perhaps
UK's gone in the opposite direction in general, bruv.
the worst part of all is not just that vehicle theft is rising, it's that we might be seeing a wider resurgence of organised crime on the whole. The result is that today, the business of vehicle theft is larger and more profitable than it has ever been in UK history. So the real question isn't just why car theft has exploded, it's how this shadow economy works, who profits from it, and where it's headed next. For a long time, car theft in the UK looked like a problem on its way to extinction. Back in the 1980s and earlier, all you needed to break into most cars was a simple screwdriver or a Slim Jim to open the door, and once you were inside, the ignition was just as vulnerable. But by the early 90s, car manufacturers
Yeah, I heard about this. I'm sure Bearman have. My uncle and that used to tell me, yeah, could start a car with a screwdriver back in the day. Da da da. Mad.
began rolling out new security tech such as electronic key fobs and engine immobilizers, which made stealing a car dramatically harder. And the effect was evident. In Britain, car thefts declined every year from 1993 to 2013. For a moment, it seemed like technology had finally pulled ahead of the criminals. But then something changed. In 2013, less than 80,000 vehicle thefts were reported across the UK, a record low. But 10 years later, this number had increased by 75% to over 136,000. What's concerning about this isn't just the number of cars being stolen, it's that criminals have gotten smarter. They're using more sophisticated carjacking methods, and sometimes even black market devices worth tens of thousands of pounds that let them rewrite a car's security system from the outside. Manufacturers have started to realize they're in an arms race, and every time they patch a security weakness, car thieves just find a new way to exploit it. And in some cases, the criminals are the ones innovating first. Another thing that's different from before is also the kind of cars they're stealing. See, you might think car theft gangs would focus on luxury vehicles like Jaguars, Range Rovers, and high-end German models. These do get targeted, but statistically, the most stolen vehicles are everyday models like the Ford Fiesta and the Volkswagen Golf, which means most victims of car
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that, you know. I thought it's probably like. Actually, yeah, that's about right. But I thought it might be like Beamers and that. BMWs. But Fiesta.
thefts are ordinary people who depend on them to get to work. But the real shift isn't just the type of cars being taken, it's the people doing the stealing. Car theft used to be the domain of small crews looking for quick wins, but that version of crime barely exists anymore. Over the last decade, it has turned into a scalable business. Criminals have adapted to that, and what used to be loose gangs have turned into organized networks with international supply chains, specialized roles, and technology that rivals what manufacturers use. To understand how these criminals make money, first we have to understand how they work. And it's all to do with how they're structured. Typically, car theft gangs are organized into a hierarchy with 4 levels. At the very bottom are the runners. These are usually young men, often teenagers, who carry out the physical theft. Depending on the job, they're paid a flat rate of between £200 and £500. Above them are the scouts. Their job is to find the vehicles to steal, and they do it by driving through wealthy neighborhoods, parking lots, and even combing through social media or dating apps for people showing off. Then there's the
Bruv. Alright, go on. Fuck it. I'll just let it carry on. Some of this shit, I don't know.
technical specialists. Certain cars, especially newer, more expensive ones, can be stolen using highly sophisticated technology. Technical specialists are the people with the hardware and the know-how to pull off these kind of thefts. And finally, there are the coordinators. Usually the highest ranking members of these crime groups. Coordinators don't just give orders though. They're the ones who have built connections and figured out how to turn stolen vehicles into cash without getting caught. Their networks span the entire globe, and the business models
The coordinator. You know what's mad? Sometimes that's all you need to be, even in general. If you have the right links and you can get shit done. You don't need nothing physically, you know what I mean? Sometimes being the middleman is the best position. What do you lot think?
they've developed are highly sophisticated. So instead of just telling you how this business works, let's actually see what happens to a car from the moment it's stolen to the moment it gets resold half a world away. The crime begins with the scouts. Once they found a vehicle worth stealing, they go to the coordinator, who starts preparing fraudulent paperwork to sell it as if it were legitimate. Then it's up to the runners to actually steal it. But not every theft is the same. Aside from taking the owner's keys, the simplest method of stealing a car is called a keyless theft, and it works like this. Many cars nowadays open and start electronically, using keys that constantly emit a short-range signal. Normally, the car only responds if the key is physically close, but runners use a pair of devices, an amplifier and a emitter, to manipulate that system. For example, if you were to leave your car parked outside,
Wait, why did it censor that? Really? You can get that shit on eBay, not Amazon.
your house and your keys by the front door, one runner would stand just outside with the amplifier. It would receive the signal from the key and amplifier. Then the transmitter, which the second runner has, would receive and replicate the signal, basically making the car think the original key is right beside it. The runner can then open the car, turn it on, and simply drive it away. The entire process can happen in under 60 seconds, and it's completely silent.
Gone in
So
60
that's
seconds.
one way. But this method only works with older cars, and the biggest profits usually come from newer models with advanced security systems. That's where the technical specialists come in again. With the right equipment, sometimes black market devices costing more than £20,000, these guys perform what's known as a CAN bus injection. It works exactly like hacking a computer, because these days that's exactly what modern cars are. Everything from the doors to the ignition to the brakes is controlled by software. So what specialists do is basically rewrite a car's code from the outside. and just like magic, they open up. So that's how the cars actually get physically stolen, but it's really only the beginning of the operation. Now the gangs have
Bruv, it's like I'm starting to lose concentration, bruv. Like, don't know where it is. Starting to get bored and sleepy.
to figure out how to sell the cars, and this is where you can truly see how sophisticated they've become. Once the car's been stolen, control shifts to the coordinators, and the operation splits into two main business models. The first one revolves around what are called chop shops. After stealing a car, runners drive them straight to a secure location, where they're stripped into parts. Everything of value is either sold directly in online marketplaces like eBay or Gumtree, to complicit repair shops, or even to legitimate businesses that don't local car manufacturers. When the cars are stolen, they're fitted with new license plates and taken to a port where they're loaded into containers and shipped out as if they're legitimate. What's impressive is how fast this all happens. A Range Rover stolen at 2 a.m. in a London suburb can realistically be driven 2 hours to the port of Dover, where ferries depart for continental Europe every 30 minutes, and be docking in the Netherlands before the owner even wakes up. Even if they file a report, once the car's out of the UK, recovering it becomes almost impossible. Just look at where they end up. Of the 136,000 vehicles that were stolen in the UK in 2023, around 40% are believed to have gone to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. From there, they're taken to dozens of countries in the region and sold as second-hand cars, significantly cheaper
I can't lie. That's mad still. 30 little pattern.
than the new ones, but expensive enough for everyone in the supply chain to profit. The same thing happens in major hotspots in Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia. And surprisingly, many of the people who end up buying these cars have no idea they're stolen.
So, in other words, like 80% of the cars you see, like when you go on holiday, and like you see like a bad boy rangy SVR, or you might see a Merc AMG, whatever. There's a high chance it's a dinger.
When you step back
Come
and
from
look
the
at the bigger
UK.
picture, it's clear that this isn't petty crime. It's a highly organized, highly efficient business. Now, you might be thinking that if this technology is widely available, then almost every country must be facing a similar crisis. The surprising thing, though, is that this problem is far worse in the UK than almost anywhere else. For example, in France, vehicle theft has been on a steep and steady decline since 2007. Even after a post-pandemic recovery, it's nearly halved, and it's declining again. By comparison, the UK has seen a 75% increase in just the last decade. It's
because the UK is cooked right now. Cost of living and whatnot. People gotta eat, bro.
honestly not a good look. But why is this happening in the UK and not in other countries? Well, the answer is that Britain is almost the ideal place to be a car thief. Just think about it in terms of risk versus reward. Decades of research have shown that criminals worry much more about getting caught for a crime than they do about
Bro, I need to put this in speed times 2 or something.
how harsh the punishment is. In Britain, vehicle theft
Get me? Yeah, bro.
can carry sentences of anywhere between 6 months to 7 years. But to criminals, that doesn't really matter. If they feel like the risk of getting caught is low enough, they'll do it. So let's evaluate it for ourselves. Risk versus reward. When it comes to risk, you might think British criminals would be at a big disadvantage. After all, Britain is an island. And even though we have the Eurotunnel, driving thousands of stolen cars through there isn't exactly convenient. So as a smuggler, you're forced to use the ports. Counterintuitively, that makes their lives a whole lot easier. As an island, the UK pays disproportionately more attention to what comes into the country than what goes out. And there's good reason for that. The highest priority crimes, drugs, firearms, and illegal immigration, are typically associated with ships coming in. So ports allocate the vast majority of their limited resources to policing imports. But that leaves a massive blind spot on the export side. The level of scrutiny there is extremely low, and therefore so is the risk. Then there's the reward side. And again, this is counterintuitive. UK cars are right-hand drive, which isn't the case for most of the world. So while that technically limits the market for UK stolen cars, just because the market is smaller, it doesn't mean it's small. In fact, it gives the UK smugglers an effective monopoly on these markets. Think about it. If you wanted to smuggle a stolen car into a left-hand drive country like Bulgaria, you could get the car from America, or France, or Germany, or practically anywhere else in the world. There's more competition. But for markets like South Africa, India, or Australia, the UK is the only provider. Before you leave a comment, yes, a small caveat to this is Japan, a major car manufacturer, which is also left-hand drive. But there, only around 6,000 cars are stolen every year. Funnily enough, Japan's headlines also warn about an auto theft crisis, but it's nothing compared to the UK, especially when you consider it has twice as many people. Either way, when you combine these factors, you can clearly see that for criminals in the UK, the risk of a car theft is dwarfed by the potential rewards. And until that formula is reversed, Britain will keep suffering these consequences. As you can probably imagine, there are a lot of those. The big picture is that vehicle theft is estimated to cost the economy around £1.7 billion every year. That figure includes everything from the cost of investigating and preventing crime.
Bruv, 1.7 billion, you know. That's gotta be a made up number, bruv. Inflated or something.
To repairs and replacements, to insurance payouts. However, it doesn't account for how much expensive it makes owning a car. In the last few years, the average cost of car insurance in the UK has increased by 82%, and in areas with the highest theft rates, it surged by up to 180%.
I heard if you get insured on a Range Rover, it's hard. Like you can't, certain people, like you can't even get insured on it, or it's mad high because so many were getting taken.
In just the last 2 years. That's already bad enough, but the real problem is that when insurance becomes that expensive, it has enormous ripple effects. Car manufacturers see their sales decline, and many people, especially those outside major cities, find themselves without a way to get to their jobs. It just goes to show that economically, crime is never a plus. Of course, it also has effects on everyday life. When life gets easier for criminals, it gets harder for regular people, and pushes them into crime. It's a vicious cycle. So even though it might seem like car theft only affects the person whose car was stolen, the truth is that the impact spreads far beyond that. And unless the UK finds a way to break this cycle, the consequences are only going to get worse. But for now, the numbers don't tell a good story. Between 2013 and 2023, charge rates for vehicle theft have collapsed from 9% to just 2.6%. That's a clear sign that something isn't working. And if you want to see this happening in real time, just go online. On platforms like eBay and Facebook Marketplace, criminals sell stolen parts in broad daylight. It couldn't be more obvious, but the police are so hopelessly underfunded and understaffed that they can't even stop this. See, across the nation, thousands of officers are leaving law enforcement for better paying jobs, and vehicle crime that once had hundreds of detectives and officers has now been massively downsized, or simply shut down due to the lack of funding. With that in mind, it's not hard to see why the police simply can't keep up with the scale or sophistication of modern car theft. And the unfortunate truth is that the government is already stretched.
The unfortunate truth is is that there's too much money to be made. Imagine you get a car, even if you're a middleman. Let's just say, for example, I go now buy a stolen car, yeah, with the intention to break it into parts and make profit. Like that wouldn't be hard to, like you can make good money doing this, and that's just as a middleman, So, and then everyone's hungry right now as well, so I don't know, bro.
It doesn't look like there's going to be any increase in funding anytime soon, but the police aren't the only ones falling behind. On the other side of the equation, car manufacturers are largely behind in the arm race against crime. Instead of staying one step ahead, they're the ones reacting to whatever new tricks criminals invent next. Even when they want improved security, they're often faced with a completely different problem. Cars today are computers on wheels, and the companies that make them have been selling this as a security feature for years, when in many cases, their older cars are unsafe. That could expose them to costly recalls.
Bro, they're probably in on it. They're probably the ones in on it. They profit off this shit, no? People are still gonna buy cars. No? Am I wrong? Am I bugging?
Because of this, many manufacturers quietly choose to do nothing instead. If you think about it, these two problems, an underfunded police force and weak vehicle security, are just two more factors destabilizing the risk versus reward ratio we talked about earlier. So, how do you turn this around? Well, according to the think tanks and experts, the only way to fix the auto theft crisis is to attack these problems surgically. They say that on the regulatory side, the government has to allocate more funds to vehicle theft departments and improve scrutiny on goods heading out of UK ports. And on the manufacturing side, they say that car makers have to take security far more seriously. The good news is there are improvements on both these fronts, even projections that car theft will decline slightly in 2025. But here's the thing, trying to solve car theft by, solving car theft might be the wrong approach entirely.
This documentary must be 2 years old, definitely.
Like taking a pill to treat a symptom, but nothing to do to cure the disease. Because the fact is, behind the story, there's something much larger going on. In 2024, the National Crime Agency reported increases in organised fraud, money laundering, cybercrime, human trafficking, and virtually everything you could throw under the label of organised crime. That means that car theft isn't an isolated crisis at all, but just one tiny symptom in a larger wave that's taking the UK by storm. And let's face it, until the country deals with that deeper underlying issue, then every solution is temporary.
Yeah, subscribe for more. And for more reactions, innit, people? Yeah? Love.